from our Toronto studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Zahra Syed. Our top story tonight. Israeli police raided the office of Al Jazeera television in Jerusalem and confiscated its equipment. Al Jazeera has an office in Israel and a team of correspondents working year-round. The move came shortly after a government decision to shut down the broadcaster. Israel does not give international journalists free access to Gaza, and so far has killed 140 Palestinian journalists in Gaza. Oil company ExxonMobil has said it will not hire students taking part in Free-Palestine protests across U.S. colleges. CEO Darren Wood said they would not be interested in recruiting students from the campuses where protests are taking place. Similarly, entrepreneur Kevin O'Leary has warned of AI's capability to identify protesters potentially impacting their future job prospects. The students' movement, which has spread to 130 campuses, was sparked by Israel's war on Gaza. Israel stands accused of genocide at the International Court of Justice. An interim ruling in January ordered Tel Aviv to stop genocidal acts and take measures to guarantee humanitarian assistance is provided to civilians in Gaza. Israel continues to bomb Rafah, the last refuge for internally displaced Palestinians in Gaza. Heavy Israeli airstrikes on residential buildings in the region have killed 21 people, including many children. A school housing displaced people in the center of Gaza was also bombed, causing casualties. Fighter jets attacked near the entrance to the Al-Juni school in the Nusayrat refugee camp, according to eyewitnesses. In retaliation, Hamas fired rockets at the Karm Abu Salim border crossing, killing 3 Israeli soldiers and injuring 11. This prompted Israel to close a vital border crossing. Their deaths brought the number of Israeli soldiers killed since the start of the ground operation to 266. Last week, the United States stopped a delivery of ammunition destined for Israel. Citing 2 Israeli officials, the news website Axios reports that this move has raised serious concerns within the Israeli government. It is the first time the United States has taken such a step since the start of Israel's war on Gaza in October, which has killed at least 34,683 Palestinians and wounded 78,018. The death toll in Israel as a result of the attacks by Hamas on October 7th stands at 1,139. Nearly 4 in 10 Americans say the United States is doing too much to support Israel in its war on Gaza. An April 25th to April 30th survey of 2,260 adults by U.S. News Ipsos reveals that Americans are divided on the U.S.'s Israel policies. The survey found that 38% said the United States was doing too much to support Israel, 20% saw too little U.S. support for Israel, and 40% said Washington's backing is about right. It showed that 37% trust former President Donald Trump more than President Joe Biden to handle the issue, while 29% trust Biden more, an 8-point gap. About 33% of respondents said they did not trust either, and 1% did not express an opinion. According to Washington Post, Israel has received more U.S. military aid and more U.S. aid of any type than any other country since the Second World War. A majority of Americans in most surveys favor ceasefire in the occupied Palestine. Free Palestine protests escalate, and dozens arrested on U.S. campuses. Details come after the break. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. Protests against Israel's war on Gaza have intensified across the United States universities, resulting in multiple arrests. At the University of Virginia, 25 demonstrators were detained for trespassing after police dispersed a Free Palestine camp. The university cited violations of campus policies, including tent use and amplified sound. Similarly, 50 individuals, including students from the Art Institute of Chicago, were arrested for escalating protests, blocking exits, and stealing museum keys. Despite offers of alternative protest sites and amnesty from charges, negotiations failed. These arrests are part of a broader trend of student activism in solidarity with Palestine, sparked by the prolonged Israeli war on Gaza, resulting in the deaths of over 30,000 Palestinians, mostly civilians. Free-Palestine student movement has now expanded to 122 campuses across the USA. The Council on American Islamic Relations has condemned University of Virginia police for attacking student protesters on the university's campus. Police raided the student peaceful protest site on campus, arresting 25 people. Videos on social media platforms showed police pushing protesters to the ground, dragging them by their arms, and spraying them with chemical irritants. Officers in headgear and carrying shields began to clear the peace camp in the afternoon. Georgia Republican Congressman Mike Collins faces backlash after endorsing a video of white students racially abusing a black woman during a Free Palestine protest. The video shows students of the University of Mississippi mimicking apes and hurling racist insults at the woman, with Collins captioning it, "Ole Miss taking care of business." Collins has dismissed accusations of racism, sparking a heated exchange with black leaders. The incident occurred as counter-protesters disrupted a rally supporting Palestine, chanting racist remarks and singing the national anthem. Collins has a history of controversial and racist statements, including suggesting violence against migrants and amplifying a neo-Nazi post. Ole Miss condemned the offensive remarks amid ongoing campus protests against Israel's war on Gaza. Two recent attacks in Australia have sparked controversy over the perceived discrepancy in how they were handled by authorities. Following a knife attack in Sydney that killed 6 people, police attributed the perpetrator's actions to mental health issues, distancing it from terrorism. However, an assault at a church resulted in injuries, with law enforcement swiftly labeling it as a terrorist act. Imam Shadi al-Sulaiman of the Australian National Imams Council criticized this inconsistency, highlighting concerns about biased language in the media coverage and its exacerbation of Islamophobia. Al-Sulaiman emphasized the need for solidarity within the Muslim community and greater inclusion in the legal system to address anti-Muslim sentiment effectively. He linked the rise in hostility to recent international events, stressing the urgency of addressing Islamophobia in all its forms. 45 journalists have been killed in Yemen since the fighting erupted between the internationally recognized Yemeni government and the Houthi group in 2015. The Yemeni Journalists Syndicate on World Press Freedom Day last Friday said 165 press platforms stopped working, and 200 local and Arab news websites have been blocked since 2015. The syndicate, however, did not accuse any party of being behind attacks and violations against journalists. It urged all parties to stop violations against journalists and freedom of journalism in the country. Yemen remains divided into 3 zones of influence: the legitimate government supported by Saudi Arabia, the Houthis backed by Iran, and the Southern Transitional Council, STC, supported by the United Arab Emirates. Yemen has been embroiled in conflict since military intervention by the Saudi-led Arab coalition in March 2015, followed by Houthis' seizure of the capital, Sana'a. For the past 2 years, Yemen has seen a state of truce and a halt in fighting between warring parties, yet the situation remains unstable across the country. Canada's Royal Canadian Mounted Police have arrested 3 Indian men in connection with the assassination of Sikh Canadian activist Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Karanpreet Singh, Kamalpreet Singh, and Karan Brar were living in Edmonton, Alberta, and now face charges of first-degree murder and conspiracy. Nijjar was fatally shot outside a Sikh temple in Surrey, British Columbia last June. The suspects allegedly targeted him under the direction of the Indian government. The Indian government had blamed Nijjar of leading a group that demands a separate Sikh state in the Indian state of Punjab. The Indian government has also accused him of leading a terrorist group called Khalistan Tiger Force. Before he was murdered, Nijjar refuted the allegation. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau had previously implicated India in Nijjar's murder, leading to tensions between the 2 countries. The USA and Pakistan have joined Canada in condemning India for assassination plots in their respective countries. That's all from our Toronto studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Assalamu alaikum and good night.